In this video, I want to share with you some things that I carry in my four-wheel drive plow truck. I'm not only going to talk about what I carry, but the methodology for selecting tools and equipment to carry in your truck to be prepared for life's unfortunate and unplanned events. This video will benefit the prepper, the off-road enthusiast, and the person that wants to carry a toolkit for simple unscheduled repairs, or in other words, tools for a breakdown. I don't consider myself a prepper. I like to have the tools and equipment that I need for myself and others when needed. I see online that a lot of people have get-home bags and bug-out bags. Why not make your car or truck prepared for any event? Why not make your car or truck a get-home truck or a bug-out truck? So this video will also help the off-road enthusiast. When you're out on the trail, you often challenge your vehicle, which causes a breakdown and repairs are needed. So let's face it, tools and equipment cost money, they take up space in your vehicle, and they weigh a lot. Now I know most hand tools don't cost a lot, but this is a second set of tools and to be used on a limited basis, so cost may be a factor for some people. And no matter what vehicle you're trying to outfit with tools, space is always limited, and you can't fit everything in. If you could fit everything in, you could just bring your entire shop's worth of tools on board. Of course, then weight would be an issue, and weight is always an issue. As I was growing up, I read a lot of Carcraft and Hot Rod magazine. One rule that I learned from them, and it seems to be a close estimate, is that every 100 pounds a car weighs, it is worth 10 horsepower to get you down the quarter mile. In other words, if you could lose 100 pounds, it would be like adding 10 horsepower. If you add weight to your vehicle for that everyday load by adding a toolkit, it will cost you something in performance, gas mileage, rock climbing ability, or whatever. When I worked as a defense contractor, the U.S. government wanted to limit our vehicle's size and weight to allow the vehicle to be rail, truck, or air transported, but also required that the operator perform maintenance on the vehicle. This maintenance required a toolkit. To get the biggest advantage from the toolkit, we limited the number of different types and sizes of fasteners, or in other words, the bolts and other fasteners that could be used on the vehicle design. The number and weight of tools was also limited. So we determined what maintenance tasks we wanted to perform and then ensured the vehicle design worked with our toolkit, and of course that our toolkit worked with the vehicle design. You don't have the option of changing your vehicle design in most cases, but you do have the ability to select what maintenance tasks you think you can perform when away from your shop or home. To get started, I'm going to talk about methodology. This is an old Humvee manual. This is the operator's manual for a Humvee. And I know it's a 96 issue. It's pretty old. But I want to show you some concepts on how you select tools and some of the equipment that you want to have with you to go off-road or to be prepared. Like my plow truck, even though I may be just down the road a few miles, I don't want to have to come back to my garage for a tool that I constantly need. And even though I'm not plowing, I want to be able to do some maintenance items to my truck, even if I'm 1,000 miles from home. So let's get into my methodology. So in this manual, in the back, are basic issue items, BII items. Now those are all the items, and I'll show you the definition. Those are the minimal items that you need to place the vehicle into operation. So all the equipment that you need to operate the vehicle is basic issue items. Now there are other items that are in here that I'll show you too, and I'll explain. But let's start with the basic issue items. Now these items include things like this TM, a bag to put the TM in, an axe, equipment logbooks, first aid kit, fire extinguisher, Maddox handle, jack, some of the other jack components. There's the Maddox itself, so Pioneer gear. And then we get into the hand tools, like a pair of pliers, a specific screwdriver, that's a Phillips screwdriver, a regular screwdriver. There's some more Pioneer gear, the shovel, some tow items, extra spare bulbs, adjustable wrench, of course the lug wrench, right? So a Humvee takes very minimal items to operate it. That doesn't include any of the weapon system type stuff. It's just the basic automotive components that you need to operate that vehicle, the basic vehicle. We're talking about these basic items to operate the vehicle. What do you need to operate your truck? Your off-road truck, or your prepped vehicle, your vehicle that you want to go off into the woods or to take you to safety someplace. What are the basic items you need? Of course you need a lug wrench, right? And the jack. The Ford Motor Company or your OEM manufacturer knows that you need a lug wrench or a jack. They provide that in the vehicle. But is that sufficient? If you added larger tires to your truck like I have, does that jack still work? Does that lug wrench still work for you? In a minute we'll look at the things that I've done, that I've added, supplemented my basic items that the OEM has supplied me. But before we do that, before I get into the truck, let's continue to look at the manual since we're here. This additional authorized list, those are items that don't normally come with the vehicle, that a particular unit, say if you're a very specific unit like a signal unit or whatever, you might need additional radios, and this will show those additional radios and then how to equip the vehicle with those and how to order them. So it's got ordering information, these part numbers and stocking numbers and quantities that it's recommending. So things that a certain unit may need is this chemical agent alarm, and then there's brackets for that to install that on the vehicle. So here's some items that I want to talk about. This cable NATO slave. Now that's slave cable is what we'd consider jumper cables, so that's a good idea. Fuel cans, add additional fuel cans if you're off-roading, or you know your fuel tank isn't going to be sufficient to get you from wherever you're at, wherever you work at, to your place of refuge. You might need additional fuel. Water cans, sure, right? Chains, tow chains, sounds like a good idea. Decontamination stuff, well, I don't know. Flashlights, yeah, heck yeah. Tire pressure gauge, oh, that's a good one. Keys, litter for transporting people, I don't know about that, right? Extra padlock sets, different tires, it's listing, gas can spout, turnbuckle for suspension, different wheel and run flat information. So that's it. That's the additional authorized list. There's also some expendables, which would include like oils and things like that. Let me give you a look at that quick too. That's pretty good. I don't carry any oils. I figure I can make it back to my garage if I really need some additional hydraulic fluid for my plow, or I make sure I do maintenance before I leave. So I'm full of engine oil, fuel up. So here's some like cleaning compounds, coolants, antifreeze. It's called antifreeze. It's just coolants, dry cleaning solvents, and then oils, different oils and fuels. Just to give you an idea, maybe you want to carry some additional engine oil with you, right? Just in case. Okay, well that takes care of taking a look at the manual. I hope that gave you some ideas. And now let me show you what I've done. I'm going to back up. We're in the right side of my truck. I have a 4-door, so I have a rear seat that folds up. So I have a 2-part rear seat, and I've got a baby seat in the truck right now. So I'm going to push that out of the way. My seat splits in two. I'm showing you the right side seat. I'll fold that up. Under the seat I have the standard kit. This has the extensions in it, and the lug wrench that came with the truck is in this tool kit, and it's strapped in. And here's the stock jack. I have a tool bag, and then I have this little tool kit. I have one toe strap here that's underneath the seat. There's another toe strap back under the rear seat, back under here. So I have 2 toe straps here. I have another toe strap that's over underneath the driver's seat. I have tie down equipment, bungee cords and things like that underneath the passenger seat, and I can show you that in a minute. We'll talk about this tool kit that I have here in detail, and how I derived at the tools that are in this little kit. And you can tell it's not in the kind of tool bag that I use all the time. These tools are my emergency kit. Well, we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Back under this seat I also have my long-handled ratchet. This is a 1/2-inch drive ratchet that I use in conjunction with an extension and an impact socket in my kit. That's my new lug wrench, and I can also change the serpentine belt with that. Before we go into that toolkit, I'm going to take you on a quick tour just around the truck. In this seat packet, I have a lock cable, so I can secure stuff in my bed of my truck if I want to. This is the manual for the plow, and it includes the wiring schematic, so if I need to troubleshoot the problem with the plow, I can do that. Always have that. There's an extra plow controller down in this pocket in case my controller goes bad. I can pull that out and continue to work. In the pocket that's in the door, I have some toiletry items. These wet wipes and soap come in handy when you're out in the field, if you're off-roading. If you're dirty, I have some more heavy-duty type wipes for your hands, for grease on your hands, in that door pocket. In the glove compartment is the owner's manual for the truck. Sometimes that comes in handy for troubleshooting fuses and other things, so that's stayed in here. Some additional information on the truck, registration, that sort of thing. My favorite tire pressure gauge is in here, I-pass, and then a little box of fuses. So emergency use for fuses that I need for this particular truck, the small fuses. That's my glove compartment. So in the armrest of the center console, that's where my maintenance logbook is at. Additional batteries. My scan tool is in there. So maintenance logbook. I've got a video that I talk about my maintenance logbooks. So if you haven't seen that, go and check out that video. That's an important thing to have for each and every vehicle that you own. Continuing to go around the truck, on the driver's side, the front driver's door, I have my work gloves. I use those a lot when I'm plowing in the wintertime. Don't use them much in the summertime. A new set of work gloves. These are hand tight, so a good tight set of elk skin work gloves. Some marking pens down here, some paint pens, of course a little bit of Advil, little food sticks, and of course my flashlight. I've got my flashlight mounted where I can always find it. I've got additional batteries for my flashlight, my Surefire batteries for the flashlight. There's also, like I said, in the center console, I also have AA batteries and AAA batteries and more Surefire batteries in there. I have a set of latex gloves or neoprene gloves for working on stuff, dirty stuff. The rear driver's side door, the left side rear door, here's where I have some more of my off-road or off-the-grid type stuff. I have some stuff for mosquito repellent for my clip-ons, a little bit of food in here, and my emergency space blankets are in here. Whether they're for me or somebody else, I can hand those out in an emergency. Extra paper towels, so whenever I have a roll of paper towels that are down that'll just fit in this door, I take them and snag them. I don't put a full roll of paper towels in here, but you can see I've got some looks like a power bar down in there, my insect repellent. Now that's probably not a good spot to keep food with insect repellent, and my sunscreen, but packages are all wrapped. So from this side you can see that underneath the rear seat I've already pulled out some of my items. Of course, most of this is clothing items for the winter. So a lightweight rain jacket, my coveralls, Gore-Tex jacket with liner, my military boots that are insulated and waterproof. There's a tarp under here, a large garbage bag. There's a new windshield wiper or two here. There's a set of windshield wipers, so I can replace those if they go bad. Extra oil. Another pair of jeans in case mine get wet. And then of course my good set of jumper cables. Don't buy a cheap set of jumper cables. Make sure you have a good set of jumper cables. These are a 600 amp set of jumper cables, and they're in like new condition. So make sure you have a good set of jumper cables. I didn't have them in here because we're coming to the end of the summer right now, but I also have these Carhartt bib overalls that are insulated, and I use these when I'm plowing snow. And this Gore-Tex jacket will fit over the top of this, but also if I'm wearing just dress pants and dress shoes, I can easily slip this on and then put my boots on, take my dress shoes off, and put these on because the legs on these zipper up. Those are handy to have. So if I'm in dress pants and I get in a situation where I need to switch from going to work to walking somewhere or pulling somebody out of the snow, I can easily pull those on over my dress pants so my dress pants don't get dirty. And if I want to, I can put my boots on, and I have all my other equipment that I need. So those will go back in here soon because we're getting into fall here in Michigan. Let's talk about the on-vehicle toolkit that we're going to have. I know this is a pretty small kit. I can show you the scale by my hands. There isn't a lot in here, but we want to select items that get a lot of bang for the buck. Methodology. If we go back and look at the operator's manual of the Humvee, this is strictly operation stuff that the operator does. There's also a mechanic that does work on the vehicle. This is strictly operator, so he's going to do things like change tires and add lubricants, add oil or gas to the vehicle. He's not going to perform any of the maintenance. When we're off-roading or under extreme conditions, we're going to want to do some of the maintenance tasks too. So the first methodology is to figure out some of those tasks that we want to do. What are some of the things we want to do? Simple things like the serpentine belt. If that's worn or something happens with that, we ford water, it gets wet and it squeals, and then for some reason it gets damaged. We want to replace the serpentine belt. That's very doable, and we figure out what tools we need to do that task. Do we want to do an alternator? Do we want to do a starter? How far do we want to go in an emergency situation that we can do ourselves? That's up to the individual that's building the toolkit. In my case, yes, I want to do an alternator. I want to do those idler pulleys. I know they go bad periodically, and usually they give warning before they go bad, so does an alternator, but not all the time. Do I want to be able to do a starter? Yeah, I could probably do a starter on my truck because I don't have to lift the truck up. I can just crawl underneath, right? And I have access underneath. That's the first thing. Figure out what tasks we want to do, and then we can figure out what tools we need to work on those tasks. The second thing is to figure out what general tools gives us a lot of bang for the buck. For example, pliers or vice grips, screwdrivers. We may not have a specific task for those things, but they're very useful, and they may be useful to help repair something else or somebody else's vehicle. So we want to look at those kind of common items like that. Let's dig into my toolkit. I've got just a bungee around mine, trying to keep it compact, and I just use an old military bag that I had. It's semi-waterproof, and they're not extremely organized, but I've done things like this where I've put them on the socket rail to keep them organized. And let me lay these out for you, and then we'll have a look at them. That's my toolkit. Let me explain some of the items. Again, this long handled ratchet with a swivel on it can be used for lug nuts with an extension, and I chose to use a 6-point impact socket. And when I originally selected this, I had the stock wheels on, so I was using stock lug nuts, which were 21 millimeter. I've since put aftermarket wheels on, and I have those Gator lug nuts, these, and I have 2 extra lug nuts, because you never know, you might lose a lug nut in the mud, right? So I have a couple extra lug nuts. I don't want to carry around a lot of weight, but they're splined, so you have to have a keyed socket to go with it. So that's my lug wrench. Extension is always handy to have, and I can take that off and use it with my other sockets if I need to. And the long handle ratchet also works great on changing the belt or taking the serpentine belt off, so I can use this in the tensioner pulley to take that belt off. Then I can also use it, I don't have a smaller ratchet, it's going to be hard to get into some areas with this ratchet and the sockets. Which you can see my socket set, Craftsman socket set, is numbered. It has the sizes on the end of it, and I also wanted to go down to 8 millimeter. They didn't have an 8 millimeter and 1/2 inch drive, so I had to use an adapter for the 8 millimeter. But I wanted to use the 8 millimeter so that I could do the alternator and some of the other items. A lot of the fasteners that are on the F-150 are 10 millimeter. They're either 8 millimeter or 10 millimeter. So that socket takes care of a lot. And I also have a 10 millimeter combination wrench. So I chose to use a 12-point combination wrench set from Craftsman. And you can tell I haven't used these. These are brand new wrenches that I'm just keeping for an emergency. And this set went all the way from 16 millimeter to 7 millimeter. So that gives me the 2 sizes that I'm going to use a lot, I think, is the 8 millimeter and the 10 millimeter. I also have some of those common wrenches that I was talking about. I have a vice grips. So instead of a regular pair of pliers, I chose to use a vice grip brand vice grip, good quality. It has the teeth. It has the ability to close and be like a pliers. It has the ability to clamp, and see how I store it. I've got it tightened up so it doesn't open up. It also has a wire cutter on it, so a very versatile tool, can do a lot of work. So if I have a bolt that's stripped or I want to hold something, I have the vice grips just for general use. Typically you don't want to use that unless you have to, right? You want to use the right wrench for the job. I also have a screwdriver, and I've selected one of the Craftsman 4-in-1 screwdrivers, and it's got multiple tips. So I've got the flathead and the Phillips in a small size, and then I've also got tips in the head. And this one has the T-handle tool, so you can get a little bit extra torque. And like I said, it's got additional tips that are in the head here. So you can see the one tip here. This isn't my favorite screwdriver. If you look for one of my shop tips, you'll see that this 4-in-1 screwdriver is actually my favorite screwdriver. But this one is compact, and I thought you could use the extra torque, so I bought this screwdriver for this toolkit. Of course, I have all the other things like flashlights, the tire pressure gauge, things like that they're already in the truck. My scan tool, it's in the truck. So when you're deciding to buy tools for your truck or your car, you want to minimize the amount of weight. So you got to justify why you're adding each tool. So do I really need a 16 millimeter? I've decided as a mechanic that in certain situations I may need all the way up to 16 millimeter. I may not have a specific use for it right now, but like to change out the idler pulleys, I need either a 15 or a 16 millimeter, so I can use a socket or I can use a combination wrench to do that. So sockets come in handy. They don't add a lot of weight, so you're getting a lot of bang for the buck with sockets. Combination wrenches, you've got, the both ends is a combination wrench, so you got a lot of bang for the buck. But you could down select. You don't have to add the whole kit. See, I've had the whole kit in mine, and you could purchase a tool roll to put these in like I normally do, but I didn't want the added weight of the tool roll. It'd make this much more organized, and it'd be better in a low light situation, like if I had to do work at night or in the rain. But I didn't want to add the extra weight. I wanted to keep my kit compact. So this is what I've done. Like I say, you could down select. You could take some of these tools and not take them out of your kit and add something else. So what are some of the things I might add? I might add a 1/4-inch drive set. 1/4-inch drive set. So a lot of times I use this set because I'm using that 10 millimeter and I'm using the 8 millimeter. The sockets and the corresponding ratchet and maybe a few extensions. That wouldn't add a lot of weight. You might want to add a needle nose or a needle nose vice grip, might come in handy. Another tool you may want is a Leatherman or some form of multi-tool. From my experience, though, when you need a tool, you need the right tool for the job. You don't need a multi-tool. So you can see my multi-tool is hardly used, but it's a good backup. It has a number of different tools in it. Saws, knives, makes a good knife substitute. I carry a multi-tool, but often when you need a tool, you need the real tool. And that kind of goes hand in hand with this 4-in-1 screwdriver. If you need a real screwdriver, sometimes this doesn't cut it. So if you have a specific task that you need a certain type of screwdriver for, like a large screwdriver, then you may not want this screwdriver. As you're putting together your toolkit, you can either perform the task using your emergency toolkit, you can perform the task using your normal shop tools and go back and make sure that you have the tool in your kit, or you can do the research and determine what tools you need for that particular task and then make sure it's in your toolkit. Any method that you use, you just want to make sure that you have the correct tools for the task before you get into that emergency situation where you need to perform the task. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please subscribe and let me know in the comments.